So AI was once a fantasy, now they're our daily reality. And the question that we're asking today is, are they just digital parrots or is there more to their story? So for us to understand this further, we're going to talk about the man who defined the future of AI and the journey that mankind took to get here today. Hey guys, my name is Fabrice from AC Insights and I'm a business AI consultant, and I'm here to guide you how you can leverage AI and LLMs to create better everyday experiences for your customers. So for most of us here today, we're well aware that AI is booming and it's going to really rapidly change the way that we work and the way that we live. And it's important for us to really start our journey at grasping the roots from which this technology has sprung. AI is not just a story of codes and algorithms, but there's really a rich and entire narrative that's been woven with human curiosity, ambition, and revolutionary thinking. And so the story of the beginnings of AI really starts back in the 1950s. And in the 1950s, you have a pioneer who dared to ask questions that was far beyond the technological norms of his time. And this pioneer's name is Alan Turing. So it's really critical for us to understand Alan's story today because he is the man whose intellect and imagination really paved the way for the world that we live in today. And you see, Turing was known as a mathematician, but some say that he was really the prophet of the digital age. He foresaw a world where machines could emulate human thought processes. Let's unpack Turing a little bit more. So why was Turing important? Well, Turing introduced the world a concept known as the Turing test. And the Turing test was a simple proposition in theory, but essentially asked the question, can a machine's responses be indistinguishable from a human's? So it was a simple question, but this simple question challenged the foundations of the way that we thought about intelligence. The Turing test became a cornerstone of AI development. It sparked debates, it inspired innovations, and it really set the stage for the evolution of these digital assistants from these non-intelligent digital entities to the sophisticated conversational partners that we have today. So how does the Turing test work? Well, the Turing test is extremely straightforward in thought. At its core, the test involves a human judge engaged in a conversation with an unseen entity. And that unseen entity could either be a machine or it could be another human. The catch is here, the judge needs to determine whether their conversational partner is a man or a machine. And if the judge can't tell, well, Turing argues that the machine, in fact, is intelligent. So it was this test that was much more than just a mere game of mimicry. This test helped mankind probe deeper into the philosophical and the cognitive aspects of what it actually means to think. And so Turing's proposition transcended the boundaries of the technology of his time. And it ventured into different realms like psychology, linguistics, even consciousness. And it raised to us some fundamental questions, right? What is intelligence? Can it be replicated artificially? So it's extremely important for us to understand the pivotal shift that the Turing test has created, because it didn't just set a benchmark for machine intelligence, but it really sparked a global conversation about the nature of what is human cognition and the potential of machines to not just calculate, but now to reason, to understand, and perhaps for some, even be aware. So let's take the 1960s and the 1970s, for example. So from the ideas of the Turing test, we witnessed the birth of the first chatbots, Eliza and Parry. And each of these chatbots represented a significant milestone in AI's journey. So I want to talk a little bit about the details of how these chatbots actually worked. So let's start with Eliza. So for those that don't know, Eliza was often considered mankind's first chatbot. And Eliza was a marvel of its time, right? So it was created by this guy, his name was Joseph Weizenbaum. And Joseph employed a technique known as pattern matching for its operation. Joseph's technique involved essentially scanning the user's input for specific keywords and phrases, and then responding based on a set of predefined rules. So the responses were really crafted by either rearranging or reusing part of the user's own input. And it was a very, very intelligent technique, let's call it, because it often gave the illusion of comprehension. For example, if a user mentioned, "I feel sad," then Eliza would typically catch the keyword sad and might respond with, "Why do you feel sad?" And it was this simple yet effective method that allowed Eliza to simulate a Rogerian psychotherapist, echoing back to users in a way that seemed empathetic. And then there was parry. So parry was an early attempt to simulate a more complex, a more specific type of conversation, that of someone with paranoid thoughts. And so parry was created by a psychiatrist named Kenneth Colby. And Kenneth really designed parry with more nuanced scripts and more advanced decision-making type rules that allowed for responses essentially based on the emotional state of the chatbot itself. Essentially, what he did was he used a system that assigned belief values to certain ideas, right? Like being persecuted. And it was these values that really influenced its responses. So this model was actually what gave the idea, or you could say it was the birth, of what we now know today as sentiment analysis. And it was this technique that allows parry to have a more consistent personality and a more consistent behavior pattern compared to Eliza. So that's Eliza and parry. And while Eliza and parry marked significant strides in the history of chatbots, their limitations are still quite evident. So you've got Eliza that relies on pattern matching, could mimic empathy, but had no real understanding as to what was going on. Parry was a little bit more advanced, but was still limited to preset rules. Couldn't adapt to new information, couldn't adapt to new context. And in that sense, we would call both of these chatbots sophisticated parrots, really just echoing back words with their meaning. But it was these early chatbots that really highlighted a key challenge for AI, right? How do we transition from scripted replies to real genuine comprehension? And so if we fast forward to the year 2011, does anyone here know that popular game show Jeopardy? Yep. So for those that don't know, Jeopardy is known for its unique format. So contestants are presented with clues in the form of answers and must respond with the corresponding question. I'll give you an example. If I had a clue, let's call it creator of the light bulb, then the answer for Jeopardy would be, who is Thomas Edison? And it was a test not just of knowledge, but really of wit, speed, and most of all, the ability to understand the intricacies of language. So why is Jeopardy important to us? Well, in 2011, we saw IBM Watson. And IBM Watson was an AI system that was named after IBM's founder that was built really to take on this formidable challenge, right? So unlike any competitor before, Watson was a machine. It was designed to do natural language, understand complex queries, retrieve relevant information, and basically stored and retrieved all of this from a huge, vast database. And the idea here was really groundbreaking. It was an AI that was competing against human intellects in a high-stakes environment. So you've got Jeopardy, and as the show commences, Watson demonstrates these capabilities that were far beyond what anyone had ever seen for just data retrieval. Watson was faced with clues laced with puns, cultural references, subtle meanings, and Watson absolutely astounded viewers. Watson passed language of clues, evaluated the information, compared it to his extensive corpus, and responded with remarkable accuracy. So the real triumph with Watson, though, is not just its ability to answer correctly, but the real remarkable portion of this is how Watson processed and interpreted nuances of human language, which was unthinkable for a machine. Now, in the public's eye, this signaled a shift from AI that could not only just mimic human speech, but to one that could really now engage with the subtleties of human language and thought. And this began a new chapter where AI was no longer about pre-programmed responses, but now it was about understanding, learning, and evolving. So Watson marked a major milestone on the roadmap of the evolution of AI. But the post-Watson era inspired the tech world. So now instead of pure speech mimicry, everyone's focus turns to deep learning, to neural networks, and then now further empowering AI to understand context and subtleties in language. And in fact, this leap forward, this allowed AI to venture into many complex realms like healthcare and customer service, offering these nuanced and context-aware type interactions. So no longer limited by initial programming, Watson inspired a series of AI systems that can now continuously learn, that continuously adapt and evolve, and has signified a huge stride towards the AI that we know today in our daily lives. So coming back to our initial inquiry, are chatbots a modern marvel, or are they just digital parrots? And we talk about the journey from Eliza all the way to Parry to paint you a clear picture that chatbots have evolved into these sophisticated tools that significantly impact our daily life, but have now transcended into the role of these digital parrots to become real, intelligent, adaptive assistants. Now, for those here today, it's important to note that even with these great advances in AI, it is still not without its challenges. There are issues like ensuring ethical AI use, protecting privacy, and the changing consumer attitude towards AI, which we'll discuss in future talks. But it's these concerns coupled with the ever-increasing complexity of AI systems that are really paving the way for continuous innovation and continuous regulation in the field. And for our Insights talk next week, we are going to explore more around the field of psychology and how consumer attitudes are actually changing towards these digital assistants. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week.